Well, hello and welcome to this uh, lesson. We're going to be looking at the configuration of pre-entry duplicate searches. It's all part of a new series of training looking at the way in which we could administer data within Sage CRM. This is quite a large cycle of training. We've got a whole set of lessons all clustered around this topic of data administration. You'll see that we're starting off looking at the idea of these pre-entry search definitions, then going on to expand that idea with looking at fuzzy logic within inside searches, going on to look at the process of data uploads. And you can see each of these topics are all related to the housekeeping of data within inside the system, whether it is to do with the management of consent or the way in which we can define relationships within inside the system. Please stick with me all the way through these lessons and you'll get a good comprehensive understanding of the ideas behind Sage CRM and its data administration. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at really the product from the system administrator's perspective. We are going to be looking at the knowledge needed to understand how to configure pre-entry duplicate searches for companies, persons, and leads. So we'll be looking at the three entities that are covered there. So duplicate records in Sage CRM, like any computer system, can be a real headache for several reasons. You can see the different problems on the screen right now. If I log on to Sage CRM as a sales user, I can talk you through some of these problems as we would experience them from a user within inside the product. So first of all, duplicate records cause problems around wasted time and effort. So sales reps might waste time chasing down the right record, updating multiple entries, or even accidentally contacting the same customer multiple times. This is something that is obviously a risk when you've got larger teams, and it slows everyone down and reduces efficiency. And you can see that if I go and look for a company, and straight away you can see that there are in fact two companies here. I've just zoomed in on my screen, called Atlantic Mesh. So if I look at this, here's the first one, and you can see that it's all set up and you can see where they're based. Well, let's have a look at what's on the quick look. We can get an overview of what's going on within this particular record, and you can see that we've got problems here, because if we have a duplicate, we'd have inaccurate data and reporting. There'd be multiple versions of the truth floating around, and it's hard to be sure which record has the most up-to-date information. And this can lead then to inaccurate reporting and inappropriate decisions being made on that bad data. If I just pin that, one of the features of Sage CRM is that you can pin tabs. So I've just pinned that open tab open, and now I can click back into the original tab to look at the other Atlantic Mesh company. And here we can see that there's some potentially poor customer experience going on here. Imagine a customer getting bombarded with the same marketing emails or being contacted by different salespeople who don't have a complete picture of the interactions with the company. And that's going to be a recipe for frustration. So if I follow through, have a look at this second company, I need to just compare the two records. And there's going to be question that, am I going to be missing any opportunities here, any business chances? Because duplicate records can make it difficult to track a customer's history and identify potential upsell or cross-sell opportunities. Well, in this particular case, if I look at the screens, there's the quick look screen. Straight away, if I tile these two screens, I can see that activity has been carried out on both of these records. Now, this all leads into really low user confidence. If a CRM system is riddled with duplicates, salespeople and other users are less likely to trust the data that it contains. And this can lead them to resorting to other less efficient methods of tracking customer interactions. And if I just tab off back onto here, if I summarize that, duplicate records just make it harder to manage customer relationships effectively. What we're about in this lesson is looking at how we can keep Sage CRM clean and removing the idea of duplicates getting into the system. And we can improve the overall efficiency of a team. You're going to provide better insights to managers and ultimately deliver a better customer experience. And actually at the heart of a CRM system is being able to provide the customer with a better experience. And keeping everything together is a very effective way of doing that. So Sage CRM has a built-in feature for preventing duplicate records getting into the system, and we call this process deduplication. It works very much as a warning system. So this is before you actually get any data entered into the system. That's why I talked about it being a pre-entry search. It works as a warning system when you try to create a new record, and that's going to be a company, a person, or a lead. Sage CRM searches for existing entries that match the entered data according to a set of rules called match rules. And if a potential duplicate is found, you'll see a warning message with details of the existing potential duplicates within the system. So it's all around warning you and saying, excuse me, this record already exists. Now, I've just returned back into Sage CRM and I'm going to log on I have logged on as a sales user here. And you can see that I've started the process of adding a new company. Deduplication is typically enabled by default during installation. But your system administrator, or you as a system administrator, can confirm the status. We'll be looking at where that's done in a moment. But let's start the process of entering a company. I've just typed the name of a company that I want to insert. Here you can see I'm typing the name of Eurolandia. This is a bit of a cheat because I know that there is a record called Eurolandia in the system. And so once I click the Enter Company Details button, a search is carried out. And here it's found the company called Eurolandia. And I'm being warned that I may be just about to enter a duplicate. Now, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to click the existing listed company displayed in that grid. And now I can go and start to add a new company for a new contact for the company. So I need to add a new person record. And so I'll click on the new person option within the new menu. Here, you know that I started this within the context of Eurolandia. And you can see that I'm prompted, though, to enter both fields of the first name and last name. Now, if I'm going to do this, I'm entering a person in the context of Eurolandia, but as I put in my contact details, I just know this person as K O'Toole. I've put this in. I'm going to click on my Enter Person Details button, and a search is carried out. Now, in this case, the search is carried out to find potential contacts in the system, and it's something that is carried out database-wide. So it's not just within the context of the company. It's not limited to Eurolandia. It's looking everywhere to see whether this K O'Toole exists. I can see that a Kieran O'Toole already exists in the system. So I think that's a very strong case that that's the same person. Now there was a limit. There was a little bit of a limitation in that, in the sense that it wasn't telling me which company that the person belonged to. Now I've clicked and landed on this page, and you can see that I am looking at Kieran O'Toole within the context of the company Eurolandia. So now we've seen duplication in companies and persons, but in my system, it's also enabled by default for leads. And if I start that process of starting to click onto the new menu and see, I can click on a new lead. And just like the company and person screens, I'm being prompted to enter some initial data. I'm on this new lead screen. Now, the information that I put in here at the company name and the last name, this is a pre-entry search. It's going to look into the lead table for those fields. Now, I know just from the previous things that we were looking at that I've got a company and a person called Eurolandia and Kieran O'Toole. So if I've put in Eurolandia as the company name and O'Toole, what will come up? Well, actually, in this case, there's no data found belonging to Eurolandia and O'Toole, because that's information that exists only in the context of the company and person tables. It's not in the lead table. These details don't exist in the lead table, so no matching records exist, and that means I'm brought straight onto the entry screen. If I'd started to enter a different bit of data, for example, the company was called Bank of Colliers, and I put in Down as the surname, it does exist because there is a lead record with that company's information contained in it. And what we need to do now is to start to look at how a system administrator can control all of that information. Now we need to look where deduplication is enabled. We need to think about what controls the display of fields that could be used for deduplication. We also need to think about the columns that are included in the pre-entry search results screen. And finally, we need to think about the actual rules, the match rules, that determine whether or not the pre-entry search finds particular data. I need to go, first of all, to where the deduplication is controlled. And this is the overall setting within the system. You can see that I've come into administration, into system, and then I've come down into system behavior. Here you can see that there are 3 fields that are directly related to the idea of deduplication. First of all, you have deduplication. This is all about specifying whether or not deduplication is turned on for company, persons, and leads. It's yes by default. You can turn it off though, whereby deduplication is completely disabled. Now, leads are a slightly different way in which they work, because you've got essentially a single record. When you're entering information, you can either be focused on the company information or the person information, or you want both to apply. And so there's a deduplication rule. So and would cause the deduplication rules to look for the same value in the lead company name and the lead person last name field. So it would look to that, or it would look at the or for the company name and the person name. So it's a different logical extension to the search. The last thing is detect duplicate emails. Now, this is a form of deduplication because this specifies whether to prevent users from creating person, company, or lead records with duplicating emails. Now, if this option is set to yes, and you are adding as a user a person, company, or lead record, and you try to create a new person which has the same email address as that person, it will block that. Um, Likewise, if you try and create a company with the same email address, it will block that. And if you try and create a lead with the same email address, it will block that. An error would occur. So a person, a company, and a lead, you could have the email address appearing 3 times, but not within the same entity. So two-person records cannot have that duplication of the email address. Now, I'm not going to touch any of those fields. The actual detect duplicate emails is going to become an important lesson when we come on to dealing with the integration with other systems such as MailChimp. And it's important because within the context of MailChimp, the email address is used as a unique identifier for contacts. Let's step away from that, and here I've clicked on customization on the left-hand menu, and I'm going to click on company to look at what I can change here. Now I need to look at screens, and clicking on the screens, here you can see that there's a screen called Company Dedupe Search Screen. Now for the person and lead entities, they're going to be corresponding screens. So there's also a person dedupe search screen and a lead dedupe search screen. But if I drill into this, if I open it up, this is the dedupe search screen definition, and it includes the fields that are going to be displayed for the pre-entry search. Now, remember, when I walked through that initial creation or attempt to create a company called Eurolandia, it only had where you needed to put in the company name. It didn't have any other information, but I can add another field from the underlying view used to define this screen structure. In this case, I'm going to add in the city field. That's coming from the address table. So I've chosen to add address underscore city, or the city field, and I can save that in here. Now that means it's going to be asking me for the idea of which city this company is in, and eventually we're going to be looking at how we can add that into our definitions with a matching rule. But before I do that, I'm going to go and click customization in the left-hand menu, and I shall now look at the person details. Here I'm looking at the person columns, but if I click to go to the lists, this is where we see all the lists displayed associated with the person entity, and I want to have a look at the person dedupe list, and that's the list that is associated with the dedupe pre-entry search results. So, and you can imagine that because it's called person dedupe list here, underneath the company and leads, there are similar lists as well. So company dedupe list and lead dedupe list. If I click in to alter it, I can add now another column, and I'm going to add the column company name. So I've moved the field company name into where I want it and moved it into the list and up amongst, so it's central in the table. Now, once I've saved this, I can think about where the match rules are defined. So if I go to match rules, I can find these in the administration data management area. And the match rules allow me to define the rules for as you can see here, company, person, and leads. Now, I will start defining it for the company because this is essentially the same no matter what entity you're using. So company, person, and leads, match rules, they work in the same way. So let's go to company, and here you can see I can, this is where I can define the rules for the company entity. Now, there's already a rule based on the company name. You can see that the search is modified so that when you type the company name, it looks for something that contains that. So you can imagine it doing a wildcard appended search, looking for the pattern of letters that you've entered. Now I'm going to click New, and the match list here, as I've started to enter in a new field, this match fields drop-down list is going to display the field names drawn from the entity dedupe search screen. So we went in to our company dedupe search screen and we added the city. So because I've added city, it knows it's in that screen, and that's why it's displayed here. I can then add the match rule type. There are 5 rule types. Exact does exactly what it says on the tin. So there's let me think about what we've got. You've got exact, starting with, contains, does not match, and phonetic. Exact is if this is the pattern of letters, those are the only letters that are allowed. So it is you have to get the name exactly right. Starting with, this is where you would enter the first few letters, and this is what it's using to help search. So it's automatically appending a wildcard to the end. Contains, you're entering a string of characters which is wildcarded before and after the name. So whatever you type in here contains that string. And that's probably generally the most useful example. Does not match means that it would detect duplicates in fields which weren't like, or values which weren't like the one that you were entering. So this is a bit obscure because it's forcing uniqueness. So it's enforcing similarity rather than uniqueness. Phonetic, on the other hand, is interesting because this is using behind the scenes a soundex function within the database to look at the patterns that you've entered and how they would then be converted into different patterns. It is highly dependent on your localization of your database. So you could get funny results from this, and I would strongly advise not only using the contains or starts with as the options. I'm going to leave the definition as contains and save. Now I can go from here and test the changes to the system and prove what I've been able to do. So if I look at the existing company Eurolandia, notice how the default address is Boston. If I was to get a duplicate of this, and not only would the company name have to contain Eurolandia, but it would also have to, on the address name, it would also have to, the address city, it would also have to contain Boston to find the information. So if I start to add a new company, the city field has been displayed in the pre-entry search screen because I added it to the company dedupe search screen. That's why we've got it here. I can add the company name, Eurolandia, and this time I'm using Springfield as the city name. If I now click Enter Company Details, It doesn't find a duplicate because the company in the system is Eurolandia in Boston, and both fields are being used to restrict the search. Because the new field I entered is Eurolandia in Springfield, it's not considered a duplicate of Eurolandia in Boston. And you can see there how the rules are working. Now, if I now, this time I return back into Eurolandia, I'm going to abandon the entry of the new company, but instead, I can see that in my company, the default person is Kieran O'Toole. If I start to add a new person, I can add both the first name and the last name. Remember, this is going to search through the entire database, even though I'm in the context of Eurolandia. I'm adding K O'Toole, like I did before, into the fields, and I can click the Enter Person Details. Now, the search has been carried out. Now, it has found duplicates, but because I've added the column company name into the person dedupe list, I can see immediately I already have a Kieran O'Toole in the company Eurolandia. That's a very useful thing for me to be able to see. So what we've seen just in these slides is just about everything that I wanted to cover in today's session. We've looked at where deduplication is enabled. We've looked at what controls the display of the fields that can be used for deduplication and the columns that are included in the pre-entry search results display. And we've also looked at the match rules that control the search. In our next lesson, we're going to take this a little bit further and look at company names again, but go through the process of setting up some fuzzy logic searching so that we can pattern match where abbreviations are being used, where we have questions over is this company an Inc. or is it a PLC or is it PTY or is it a whatever the extensions of the company designate is, we can start to swap out and create some fuzziness in the search. And so we'll be looking at that idea in tomorrow's lesson. You can see the way in which the rest of the training builds. I do hope that this has been a useful session. Let's see now if anyone has got any questions. Thank you and goodbye.